What was your original motivation to make this movie? What were you inspired by, and what was your original idea?
Well, my original idea and what I was inspired by was the four artists who are musical artists, they're actors, they're musicians. Theodore Bikel, who's an actor, activist, and folk singer. Shura Lepowski, who's a singer, poet, dancer, famous for her Yiddish songs. Mira Maklucho, who's a Bosnian concert accordionist, and Tamara Brooks, who is a pianist. And they're all about using world music as a bridge to peace and tolerance. And they believe that music can bring cultures together. So I thought that this was a powerful movie because music is a power for that. So these are 22 songs in 13 cultures in 9 different languages. And I've known Theo for over 20 years, and he's spent his whole life using music, using his voice, using art to really bring the idea of tolerance and peace. And I thought this was a uniting kind of experience.
Are there any personal connections between you and these people and these artists?
Well, Theodore Bikel is a personal friend, and we met when I was for the beginning of my career as a director, and he took me to my first protest against apartheid. And then we protested for the Soviet Jews, and all of a sudden he had me getting arrested a couple of times.
Really?
Yes. And so I was really moved by his commitment to peaceful protest and his commitment to just using the arts, using world music to really educate people in how we can all live together. And also these songs, these traditional songs of different cultures, even though they're older, they speak within your soul. You know, they get you, because you don't even realize like where they all lie there. You know, because I had a very young crew when we were shooting this, and they all said, "Oh, traditional music, I don't know about that." But then within a few hours, when they were listening to all of these songs, they were like, "Wow, this like reminds me of something really deep, really personal, really inspirational." And even if they didn't know the words, even if it was like a Bosnian song or a Ladino song or a Hebrew song, Yiddish song, whatever it was, they were really relating to it because it's universal. And I wanted to, in this documentary, preserve that. I wanted to preserve these songs sung in this way. And there's 50 years between Theo and Marima. Theo's in his 80s, Marima's in her 30s, and they connect as colleagues and as, and he sings and he speaks, I think, 12 languages, and he sings in 26 languages. And so when she first heard him singing a Bosnian song, she said, "Is he from Bosnia? He has perfect pronunciation." And he's not, he really believes in that the soul of the language is in how you pronounce the words.
Two, I think, main aspects of this festival is tolerance but also education.
Yes.
So you said something about tolerance, how this film fits into
Yes.
the main frame of this. But what about education? What were your contacts? What were the responses of people who have already seen this movie? How it affected them?
Well, we just finished it in March, and we've had a few private screenings of it. So this festival is our world premiere. So we thought that this was an ideal festival for us because our film is all about tolerance and the bridge to peace, and also it's very educational because of the history of the cultures and also the history of each one of these artists. Theo survived the Holocaust, in Anschluss. He was born in Austria, and he left when Hitler invaded Austria. When he was 13, Marima survived the Bosnian genocide, which is part of her history. And so they all have, their personal history is interwoven into the culture and the music. And I think that's an education to a lot of people, because it goes from really 1938 all the way to present day with all four of the artists. Tamara has a gypsy background. Shura has this Yiddish, French, Dutch background. So they all discuss like where they come from, what their own personal histories and how it reflects in their music and them as activists.
How would you describe yourself? I mean, this is interesting, this connection between filmmaking, but also being an activist.
Right.
And also, can you connect it with Occupy movement? Because this sounds
Yes.
really familiar with what you said.
Yes.
Peaceful protests. And
Right, exactly. Theo was part of the peace movement and the civil rights movement in the 60s, and he was part of the anti-war movement. And then when we met, I was part of the anti-apartheid movement, and so we were into peaceful protests. In the Occupy movement, I actually went to New York and joined in on that too. Yes, I believe that peaceful protest and artistic expression can go hand in hand. And I think a documentary, that's what I really, it's sort of who I am. So I tend to always have a lot of politics, social activism, religious activism in sort of the things that I do, the films that I make and the things that I write, and it just sort of creeps on in in a good way. And I think in a way that doesn't distance people, because it's all about embracing the larger questions. And so I don't try to preach. I really try to just put it out there for you to come to it, rather than us pushing it onto you, which is what I think the best kind of conversation is.
great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.